Yeah, look, I think you've summed it up nicely there. We knew the wicket obviously played a little bit differently. There was a little bit more turn on offer today. It was a little bit too paced. But in saying that, I think there's a fair few learnings for us in terms of the way we, said we want to approach this and how we want to keep making sure that we take those positive options. We keep throwing those punches through the middle block there, which unfortunately today we didn't do. And like I said, I think that's just a nice little learning opportunity for us.
How Rishabh goes in the middle overs that keeps away from a match for you?
Yeah, look, I think they bowled nicely in that middle block. Like you say, they tied us down, built pressure by bowling a lot of dot balls, obviously, and then it showed when new batters came in. It was obviously pretty tough in that middle block. So they bowled very well, but again, for us, there's a little bit of learning out of that. And I think we've always said, when we come to the subcontinent, there will be those periods where we've got to learn, and I think it sets us up nicely to learn quickly on this trip before we go to the World Cup.
In all three games, we saw Ireland batting first. Would it perhaps have been good to have that second in one of the games?
Yeah, it's a good question because I think we've always sort of enjoyed batting second. So we posed a challenge to ourselves to ensure that we can go out there and work on some of the areas that we've discussed in terms of communicating well what a pass score is, how do we go about that, which I think we did well at phases. Even in the start we had today was very productive, and then there's a little bit of learning obviously as we headed through that middle block of the game, especially today.
Both teams played last match before the World Cup. There's a huge gap between World Cup and how you guys will cope up this condition and before the World Cup, and how to do the practice and planning.
Yeah, practice-wise, we'll be indoors, which will obviously be a bit of a challenge. But look, I think it's games like these where there'll be a lot of learning and a lot of discussion, and then it's up to us as staff to come up with some innovative ideas around, how we make sure that players, even in an indoor environment, get the challenge and the constraints around understanding what it's going to be like. Obviously, it's not going to be the same, but it's also the mindset we want to create around, the clarity in the language, the clarity in the way that we approach things. And again, we've shown in the first two games we've got some quality players that can play a certain way. I think it's just doubling down from our point of view as an overarching staff around how we want to play and let them go out there and express themselves.
Speaking about learning, what position actually you're taking with you? Obviously, national outfield, what you could throw the series, right, and what else
Yeah, 100%. The way that Tim Tector's played has been brilliant. He's been knocking on the door for a little while. We're building that player pool that we've spoken about. Matthew Humphries has done really, really well. It's been great to see Mark Adair back from injury, Josh Little back from injury. Gareth Delaney was injured through a big part of the summer. He had a concussion injury as well. So, I think there's a lot of positives for us, especially in the way we played in the first two games, and then a little bit of learning in the third game here. But look, I think we said it in earlier presses as well. We're building up to the World Cup here. There's a little bit of a break, which isn't ideal, but there's some learnings for us to take from this. But there's been a lot of positives as well.
How do you sum up the whole tour? The test in Sri Lanka before and the T20 series. How do you sum up the whole series for Ireland?
Yeah, like I just had a couple of chats there with some of the senior lads. It's been a brilliant 4 weeks that we've spent out in Bangladesh. There were some real challenges around the red ball cricket for us. Again, some massive learnings in that space. But every time we play cricket, the lads love it. I think some of the test playing lads, the energies maybe dwindled a little bit here today, but look, they'll be better off for the experience. We love coming to Bangladesh, and we were hosted brilliantly again. The second time that I've been out here, and very much looking forward to the next time that we'll be on these shores again. Just lads, thank you.